No roundup last week. 2 reasons. 1, I had a personal family matter to attend to. 2, our team is small and our budget, it's even smaller. So sometimes my main job as a full-time journalist and also a journalism teacher in the UK at different universities, sometimes it just gets in the way. And the thing with investigations, and I know I've said this before, but they take time, they take money, and they actually take quite a lot of work to complete and to do properly. So yes, Saturday Roundup is a staple, but once in a while, if I miss a week or 2, just know that something big was on my desk. Anyhow, let's start with an important update. A man named Tafadzwa Janyure Zivirenyika has been linked to 203 cases. Yes, 203 cases. You're talking murder, you're talking armed robbery, you're talking rape, you're talking kidnapping, and you're talking about malicious damage to property. This isn't just about Jacob, the victim of the murder. This is about years of terror in Manzi, Gundu, Renko, and Lundi. To refresh your memory a bit, residents told us that gangs were raiding their homes every few weeks. If you had no money, you were hacked at with machetes. If you paid, you lived for another week or so before the thugs came back. But after our story came out, a joint crack team was deployed by the authorities. You're talking police, soldiers, and investigators, and they swept the area effectively. And just after that, boom, a breakthrough. Not just a breakthrough, a welcome breakthrough. Zivirenyika was arrested. Police spokesperson Commissioner Paul Nyati, he confirmed the arrest to us to Dagab last week. And look, the residents, they're relieved. Zivirenyika is not a nice guy. We are told by sources he was identified by a distinct gold tooth and some other marks. So it's him. A spokesperson for the community in Lundi even sent us this, and I open quote: "The whole community is elated and relieved. We can never thank you enough. Thank you so much for thank you so much for the assistance and raising awareness." I am told that there are now soldiers and police who have been deployed, who have been patrolling the area. It has brought so much relief and ease to the whole Gundu Lundi community. I close quote. It's been a while. Forgive me for, I'm not as sharp as I was a week ago. Anyway, we appreciate this message. Truly, when I got that message, I was tearing up. The guys on the ground that helped conduct the investigation, get the witnesses, get them to be brave enough to talk. We're all tearing up because at Dagab, yes, we dig, but at the heart of it all, we stand for the little guy. We stand for the voiceless. What I was told, what all of us believe in, is that journalism must raise awareness. It must drive change. It must save lives where possible. And we're glad we played our very small part in this. And we truly hope that Jacob gets justice and that every single gang member, part of that machete gang that terrorized those poor villages for years, I hope all of them, they get hunted down and they are dealt with. Now, let's get into this week's headlines. A Harare man whose dogs mauled a pedestrian to death was denied bail last week. You probably know his name. I've been saying it for weeks. Mike Mpinga, aged 40, is facing culpable homicide charges related to that attack. Mike owned 4 vicious dogs, 3 Pitbulls and a Rottweiler. On May 30, the dogs were unmuzzled and unsecured, and they escaped from his new Blufffield home. This is according to court documents, official records. Now, They found Samuel Machara on the street and they attacked him. He suffered deep bites to the neck, to the hands, to the legs, as well as the stomach, and he died from his wounds. You guys already know that, but it's not easy to say. Police say one of the Pitbulls had visible blood stains when they arrived. Mpinga is in remand prison now, awaiting trial, and it is where he should have been, to be honest. He had already skipped bail for rape. He clearly has powerful friends who, if not checked, they help him skip justice all the time. You remember the story of how the dogs were washed, police are offering alternative explanations. It's quite a lot of ura. Till today, we still haven't got an answer as to why Mike, a warrant of arrest after he skipped bail in his rape trial, wasn't effected. And these dogs, man, there was another attack this week. It wasn't even Mike's dogs, but the same powerful, dangerous breeds. It kind of, makes you ask the question, how many times must this happen before something actually shifts? If a goat killed someone, we would have national prayers and Gonyet level debates. But dogs, silence, a little bit of hullabaloo here, or hura like I call it on social media, but mostly silence. Look, these are not domestic dogs. This is almost exotic wildlife. And let's not forget the child's family. They might struggle to even get a single cent out of this, both the deceased one and the school child attacked this week. Because guess what? Pet insurance it's not a thing in Zimbabwe. Civil suits are not that common either. So it's just trauma. So how many kids need to die before we actually get serious about this? Robert Mugabe's son, Chatunga, is accused of leading a brutal assault on mine workers in Mazoe. Chatunga Bellarmine, he allegedly stormed Ultimate Mining Concession armed with a gang of man and AK-47 assault rifles, military-grade weapons. Why? Because he claimed that the mine workers were letting people trespass into his mother Grace Mugabe's farm. Witnesses say Chatunga personally attacked a security guard, shouting, "Why vachipinda mumunda ma president chaivo? Why did you let people enter the real president's land?" Quite unfortunate, but he really beat the guy up badly. One of those guards, a guy called Elvis Bumbwe, he suffered horrific injuries. You're talking about fractures to his arms, his skull, his ribs. He and others were beaten with logs and iron bars, and then they were dragged into the Mugabe property, and then they were doused with water. Basically, this wasn't even just attempted murder. It was kidnap, it was torture, and it was a brutal beating. At Parenyato Hospital, where the doctors confirmed multiple fractures and injuries, they classed them as severe and possibly permanent. The medical bills for this are already well over $2,000. And it's terrible. When you see the pictures and the x-rays, it's brutal. Police were reportedly called, but witnesses say Chatunga actually threatened the police officers and boasted of his connections, saying if Mnangagwa found out he was there, people would lose their jobs. And he sped off without even being detained, even though it was clear that Chatunga had inflicted quite a lot of damage on these people. The case is now recorded under RRB number 6347367 at Mazoe Police Station. We'll be following it closely, but let's zoom out a bit. Why does the son of a former president have an assault rifle in the first place? Not just one, but multiple of them. Under which law does Chatunga qualify to be armed at a mine? It's almost like we've normalized a Mugabe cartel culture so much that armed takeovers, they just feel like the standard procedure. And the thing with this that makes you stop for a bit is this isn't the first time, So how many times has Chatunga been in the news for this kind of thing and nothing happens? And not just Chatunga, even his brother Robert Jr., he similarly has been, I think he was arrested at some point for beating a friend of his, again with iron bars. It's not just a story about one spoiled heir. It's a story about how the post-Mugabe elite continues to behave like warlords in suits. It's one thing for Chatunga to pour champagne on his watches and stuff and, behave like a little misfit basically, but now he's crossing the line into behaving like a thug and causing real damage, and the police are just watching and doing nothing. The mine owners have now reported that incident to the police. Police are investigating, but ask yourself this: will anything stick, or will this just be another case of, do you know who my father was? Because we've seen this. Like I said, Robert Jr. was arrested not long ago for a brutal assault on a friend. That case went nowhere, and the posts by one of the friends that showed him beating up some of his friends and claiming that he was abusive, they just disappeared. So it's almost as if Mugabe didn't just brutalize Zimbabweans enough for decades while pretending to be a Pan-African. He left us with two other goblets to actually worry about. It's rank nonsense, I tell you, and it infuriates us so much. But we will keep watching and we'll keep an eye on it, because again, this is Dug Up and we stand up for the little guy. Jah Prayzah has cancelled his US tour dates after failing to get a visa in time. He was set to perform in Washington, D.C. and Dallas on July 4 and July 5. But a technical issue meant that the group had to restart the visa application process, and they just couldn't secure new dates to attend their interviews in time. Jah Prayzah denies rumors that his visa was blocked for political reasons. In a post, he even praised the US consulate and organizers for trying to assist. All tickets for the shows will be refunded, and he promises new US dates soon. But meanwhile, his Canada shows in July, they will go on as planned. Now, this wouldn't be news if it had landed the same week the US issued a warning. If you're a foreign student planning to study in the US, get ready for a digital strip search. Basically, the US, it had paused US student visa processing, but now it's restarted them, and there's a new rule. Applicants must now unlock their social media accounts for review. So you can't put your Insta on private, your Facebook, your TikTok. Everything has to be public. And if you refuse, you risk getting rejected. Consular officers will be checking for any posts hostile to the US government, institutions, or values, ethics, beliefs, or whatever it is that, that they like. So tweets supporting Iran, free Palestine, that kind of thing, that could be an issue. We've seen Western journalists from Australia, one from Norway, get deported already from the US for being anti-US. And this follows Trump-era pressure to tighten security of international students. The policy also prioritizes students enrolling at universities with fewer than 15% of international students. In short, the US wants fewer foreign students, more control, and total access to your online footprint. Suddenly, it feels like Zimbabwe is in a full-blown digital morality panic. But here is a kicker. We've got a regime that shuts down the internet during protests. Ministers who couldn't send an email even if you paid them in tenders. Yet, young people's memes and reels are now under CIA-level surveillance. Imagine Jah Prayzah's team passing over a student because of a 2-year-old TikTok. They look like, nah, too much twerking for us, denied. That's pretty much the reverse of what we're seeing here, except it's the American government doing it. Or think about it, the US rejecting a brilliant scholarship essay because someone once subtweeted or retweeted Emerson Mnangagwa. We know they don't like him. They've called us some of their adversaries. But here's the question. When did online expression become a criminal record? Isn't social media where students blow off steam from a country that barely even gives them electricity. Look, the US is asking Generation Z here, or Gen Z, to behave like diplomats, while the actual diplomats from Zimbabwe get away with looting lithium mines. And let's not forget, the most dangerous Zimbabweans are really on TikTok. So maybe instead of screening students for memes, they should be screening public officials for offshore bank accounts. They know them. They bank in the US. But hey, if you're applying to be a job praiser rap or heading for the US, you might want to delete that thread about your 5 steps to overthrow ZANU-PF or your 5 steps to deal with Chamisa. Just saying. That's your Saturday Roundup with Maynard. Catch us every weekend when the budget, time, and workload allow. And remember, we do this for you, to hold power to account, to speak up for the vulnerable, and to bring journalism back to where it belongs, up there, at the top. Not on a pedestal per se, journalists are not gods, but to bring journalism on your side. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and stay dug up. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. I don't have a second camera today because I was lazy, but cheers and goodbye.